Okay, welcome back, everybody. So now we will start with our first session, which is Zooarchaeology of Mediterranean Paleolithic. And we will have 4 presentations. May I ask the presenters to stick to the time? So each presentation is of 15 minutes, so we can have a brief discussion after each presentation, okay? So the first presentation is by Sharada and colleagues. Hello, Sharada. Do you mind sharing your screen? And the stage is yours.
Okay, are you able to see the PPT?
Yes.
I put it on slideshow mode.
Perfect. Thank you, Sharada. We can.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm clearly audible, right?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Sharada, and I'm a faculty member at the Archaeological Sciences Center in the Indian Institute of Technology, Gandhinagar, in Gujarat, which is a state in the western part of India. It is both slightly daunting and also a bit reassuring to be the first speaker in the session of this wonderful symposium, because I know once I finish, I can sit back and relax and enjoy the other talks. I would like to begin by sincerely thanking the organizers of this symposium and also the chair of the session, Mariana, for this opportunity. Many of you will be already familiar with the prehistoric cave site of Lazaret, which is located in the Mediterranean coast, in the coastal city of Nice in France. Today, I will present an updated synthesis of the recent work done on hominin large mammal faunal dynamics at this site. The cave preserves 29 occupation levels, and I received my Erasmus Mundus master's training in archaeozoology by examining the faunal remains from the Archaeostratigraphic Unit 28 under my supervisor, Dr. Patricia Valensi, who has actively led the archaeological research at the site for more than 2 decades now. I also thank our co-authors for this paper, Dr. Véronique Michel, who has securely established the site's chronostratigraphy through different techniques, dating techniques, and Professor Henri de Lumley, under whose direction Lazaret Cave was excavated for more than 4 decades and continues to be studied in an interdisciplinary framework. So these are the key publications on Lazaret faunal remains from the last 2 decades. I have not included all of them, but these provide the information which has gone into this presentation, and they also include the site's excavation reports. I thank the entire team of researchers from different disciplines and the excavators who have so meticulously contributed amazing interdisciplinary data to this site. Coming to the introduction, location and history of the site, the cave is carved into the Lower Jurassic dolomitic limestones on Montbourreau's western slope in the eastern part of the city of Nice and opens at 26 meters altitude above the current sea level, and it is 100 meters from the Mediterranean Sea. It is 35 meters long, 4 to 14 meters wide, and 15 meters high. A crucial site for understanding Acheulean Mousterian transition, pre-Neanderthal lifestyles, and regional paleoclimate or biostratigraphy. It was first noted in 1821 by François Fauder, then excavated by Octobon from 1950 to 65, and finally by Professor de Lumley from 1967 to 2017, yielding 29 occupation levels excavated over a large 60 to 100 meter square area, as you can see in these pictures here. The final picture here at the bottom shows the kind of spatial distribution analysis that happens for the different floors. This one in particular is for the Unit 28, and it shows the location of all the archaeological finds, including the hominin fossils and the hearth. The cave's 6-meter thick continental complex sea, which is marked here in red squares on both the pictures, is composed of gravel and blocks in a red clay silt matrix, representing 3 sedimentary cycles overlying the marine beaches, shown here in blue, A and B, corresponding to MIS 9 and 7. Complex C is further divided into C1, C2 lower, units 26 to 29, C2 upper, units 13 to 25, and C3, units 1 to 12. Archaeological layers date from 190,000 to 120,000 years ago and are capped by a stalagmitic floor, which is at the rear of the cave, and it's dated from 120,000 to 8,000 years ago. The cave saw intermittent hominin occupation, functioning as a temporary camp, used mainly in autumn and winter for short to moderately longer periods. Evidence of spatial organization includes some stone alignments, hearts of varying complexities, and refuse zones. Unit 25 indicates a brief autumnal stay, whereas units 26 and 27, lasting from late autumn to early spring, reflect longer occupations. Around 29 hominin fossils have been discovered so far, attributed to pre-Neanderthals or evolved Homo erectus, and they accompany dense lithic assemblages which show transitions from late lower to middle Paleolithic industries, that is Acheulean to Mousterian, and there are abundant faunal remains ranging from amphibians, reptiles, birds, micromammals to large mammals, characterizing the Middle Pleistocene environments. These indicate a cooler, wetter regional climate than today's Mediterranean one, while the maritime Alps' forested setting helped preserve biodiversity and moderated glacial fluctuations through mixed temperate and cold faunal communities. So these are the pictures of the hominin finds, the lithic assemblages from the site. I will not go into details of the methodology since we're all archaeozoologists here, but we did do all the traditional methods for all the species, and we also accompanied it with some additional analysis. It was not done by me, but by other researchers. For instance, we have also done antler analysis for red deer, cementochronology of teeth for red deer and ibex from unit 29 to understand seasonality. The climatogram has been based on the minimum number of individuals to reconstruct paleo-environment or paleo-ecology. Apart from that, because we had the 3D coordinates for the faunal finds, we were able to conduct a kind of a spatial distributional analysis and to understand how the remains were distributed through the floor of the cave. Of course, the faunal finds have undergone preservation and restoration, and the remaining methodologies that we're all familiar with, including archaeozoological like taxonomy, anatomy, aging, sexing, and quantifications. We did compare MAU percentages with the food utility and bone density indices for some species and fragmentation indices to understand the shaft length versus circumference results. And then we also use some of the measurements to understand body size estimations and the evolutionary stage of some taxa. Moving on. The faunal list comprises 26 large mammal species, which are divided into 13 carnivores and 13 ungulate taxa. I begin with the carnivores. Their presence, which represents less than 10% of the determined remains and about 21% of the MNI, in an otherwise herbivore-dominated assemblage, cannot be overlooked, although their remains contribute a very minor share to the faunal assemblages from all the units. As can be discerned here from the NISP and MNI charts, out of the 1,189 remains, the wolf Canis lupus, the fox Vulpes vulpes, and the cave lynx Pardinus peleus, they lead the spectra, followed by the leopard Panthera pardus and bear. There are 3 of them, Ursus peleus, Arctos, and 1 unidentifiable species. Several carnivores are reported for the first time in the lower deposits of Lazaret, including the, what we call in English, wolverine, gulo, the dhole, Kuon species, the weasel, Muscella nivalis, and the badger, Meles meles. Carnivore remains at the cave are scarce and they are poorly represented, limiting interpretations. Except for rare anthropic damage on the lynx and wolf remains from upper units 27 to 29, most appear intrusive between occupation levels such as 27 and 28 or units 28 and 29. Fragmentation hinders taxonomic identification despite quite a good preservation. Tooth marks such as punctures, gnawing on vertebrae or shafts and missing ends suggest carnivore denning, brief occupation, and intragill predation or natural deaths. No clear spatial patterns occur in 28 unit, and hominin involvement is quite unlikely due to the absence of butchery percussion or such marks like filleting, etc. Shaft mandible fragmentation and concretions probably result from either carnivore activity, post-depositional breakage, or natural deformity. The image on the right shows a collage of bones attributed to various carnivores at Lazaret. I will talk more about four main species. The Canis lupus or wolf, both young and adult individuals have been found. They are small-bodied, typical of late Middle Pleistocene populations, though individual geographic and climatic variations exist. Notably, there are two very large specimens recovered, including a sub-adult female skull and hemimandibles from the Unit 26, collected under very cold conditions. The same level also yielded gulo. Its dental dimensions resemble those of the late Upper Pleistocene modern wolves, possibly reflecting influxes of large wolves during extreme cold conditions. A lower right M1 carnassial from C2 lower units was measured for maximum anterior-posterior length and lingual buccal width. These data, integrated with prior C3 carnassial measurements, were compared to other quaternary Southern European sites. Most researchers agree that wolf size grew through the Middle Pleistocene, peaking at the late Pleistocene glacial and end before a slight Holocene reduction. At Lazaret, the Fox vulpus, there are mainly adult individuals. The cranial and postcranial dimensions are intermediate between those, the modern forms from Germany, Poland, and Scandinavia. Dental measurements of the lower right M1 indicate a large size consistent with a cooler climate. The Lazaret Cave bear, Ursus peleus, shows archaic traits, parietal maximum skull width, large masticatory muscles, high parietal width, massive mastoid paramastoid processes, and slightly prominent acrocranium. Both young and adult individuals are present, and key finds include this femur here, for example, of an adult from the left side with intact proximal epiphysis. And there are several young bear elements like phalanges, vertebrae, ribs, and metatarsal fragments. There are no pre or post depositional alterations observed. The low anatomical representation and the absence of marks, whether it's anthropic or others, they preclude any kind of taphonomic conclusions. The Lazaret lynx skulls show lynx pardinus affinities. There's a rounded parietal region, compact parietal region, long parallel lyre-shaped temporal crest converging into a short sagittal crest. The robust dental material resembles lynx with a high carnassial metaconate frequency. A larger size than that of the modern Iberian lynx suggests cold climate adaptation and a broader prey spectrum beyond rabbits. The ancient Iberian lynx forms, including cave lynx, that is Lynx peleus, are now assigned to Lynx pardinus. To distinguish the Pleistocene material from the modern forms at Lazaret, we have retained the subspecific name Lynx pardinus peleus. Coming to the ungulates, the cave hosts 13 ungulate species with large mammal communities, which are characteristic of the Middle Pleistocene MIS6 glacial conditions. The ungulates are dominated by red deer, Cervus elephas, Capra ibex or steinbock. There are aurochs, Bos primigenus, or bison, roe deer, Capreolus, and Rupicapra, that is chamois. I will highlight only a few of them in the interest of time. The roe deer is rare at Lazaret, peaking in units 25 and 28. All ages are represented, and slaughter seasons match red deer hunting, which is between spring and winter seasons. The opportunistic human hunting, like marks such as cut marks or percussion or burning, they dominate the unit 25. Wolf activity is secondary and can be seen in some of the upper units. The low nutritive value explains the minor role of this species. Similarly, the chamois is also less well represented, peaking in units 26 and 28. Opportunistic human hunting in the lower units, in the form of cut marks, scraping, percussion, etc., are present, but wolf accumulation is probably dominant in the upper units. Even the skeletal profile and incomplete circumferences of the diaphysis indicate anthropic fragmentation in some cases, and these remains are clustered in a few activity zones. Horse remains are also rare at Lazaret, represented by lower teeth and fragmented postcranial remains. Its large size and dental characteristics have allowed it to be linked to the equid from the Zooarch shelter, that is Equus cabellus piveto, and more recently to the Equus ferus, comparable to Tobacensis. Very similar and difficult to distinguish morphometrically, these two horses are considered almost a single taxon by some scholars. The affinities of the Lazaret horse with these forms from the late Middle Pleistocene and the very beginning of the Upper Pleistocene support a chronology between MIS 7 and 5. It should be noted that the name Equispherus follows the recommendation of the International Council for Zoological Nomenclature of 2003. Coming to red deer, the cave features a large number of individuals with crown-terminated antlers and archaic cheek tooth morphology, which are distinct from that of MIS 5 and 4 populations. Remains are abundant and well-preserved, including fragile and fetal elements. All age groups are, and both the sexes are represented well. Dental data indicates 2 hunting episodes, autumn and winter, indicating non-selective hunting and seasonal or recurrent cave occupation and increased predation from autumn through spring. The entire carcass was brought back to the cave of varying sizes, and all the anatomical parts are present, and they were utilized for some or the other reason. Fragmentation patterns show intensive butchery, processing for meat, fat, marrow, hides, tendons, bones, and antlers as well, and the use of long bone shafts as stone tool retouchers. In the upper Acheulean levels, 26 to 29 units, numerous shed antlers were deliberately modified. The main beam was fractured. Sorry, I didn't move the slide. So these are indicating the MNE and the comparison of MAU with bone density and food utility, which show very weak correlations. Coming to the antlers here. So the main beam was fractured above the second tine. The second tine was systematically removed at the base, and the first tine was left intact, which could have broken later. The inner burr areas were crushed, indicating used as soft hammers for napping or retouching. Abundant bifaces. Bifaces are present in almost 30 to 60 numbers through these units. Spatially clustered antlers suggest deliberate collection, pre-rut male hunting, and late winter occupation. Coming to the cementochronology and seasonality in tooth-wear analysis. The classic tooth-wear and eruption analysis show that cave occupations varied by unit from a few autumn weeks in Unit 25 to several seasons in 26 and 28, and nearly year-round except summer in Unit 29. Cementochronology confirms of Unit 29 confirms regular juvenile and adult acquisition through the occupation. Tooth eruption indicates the first cull of young deer, 6 to 18 months in late autumn, and a second juvenile mortality peak for deer in mid-winter to spring, with young deer especially common in late winter and spring. So overall, the species dominance, bone and antler modification, spatial patterning, and burning collectively demonstrate systematic anthropogenic exploitation of this species at the cave. Moving to Capra ibex or ibex is the second most common species after red deer, and all age classes, both young and adult individuals and both sexes are well represented. Archaic late Middle Pleistocene form identified by a lower third premolar with a posteriorly oblique metaconid, which is distinct from the Upper Pleistocene populations where metaconids become upright, then columnar. 21 horn cores have been recovered from the cave, from the center or the southeastern activity areas or cavity areas. 13 identifiable fragments are there, out of which 11 are of male and 2 of female, 1 subadult. Minimal post-positional alterations such as breakage or manganese coating, etc. are present. Cut marks, filleting traces, percussion notches, fracturing patterns, etc. are very much present, and they show that the animals were, the entire carcasses were transported, fully butchered and consumed by the inhabitants. And it's not a carnivore accumulation. Bones are dispersed across all the levels. They're concentrated in the central or the rare activity, rare parts of the caves where there are human activity, hominin activity zones. Yeah, can you give me a few more minutes? I'll wrap it up.
You are already crossing the discussion time.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm almost done. I just have 2 more slides. Okay, I'll just quickly wrap this up. So multi-seasonal hunting from late autumn to late spring is indicated, peaking in late winter or spring. So these are the images from these studies. I already spoke about the spatial distribution patterns, which don't really indicate anything much because the remains are spread all over. Some of the rare species are found in certain parts of the cave from different units, which kind of hints towards probably some kind of localized treatment of them. Otherwise, there is no other indication. These are some of the images from the various taphonomic alterations which are present. Natural modifications, carnivore modifications, and anthropic modifications. I particularly want to bring your attention to the cut marks and the adherent flakes, notches, and use of retouchers of red deer shafts. So the taphonomic modifications are well preserved and not really obliterated by the natural ones. And carnivore ones are very few in number, which goes to show that the accumulations are mainly anthropogenic and not carnivore. So the final thing is the paleoenvironment of Lazaret, which is based on this climatogram. It reveals a mosaic biotope around the cave. There are abundant red deer, suggests predominantly forested conditions, and microfauna indicate open spaces around the cave under a cooler, wetter climate than today. Large mammal communities align with MIS6, as we already saw, retaining many thermophilic species. There are certain animals which are cold indicators here, as I already mentioned earlier. So what we see is an alternating cooler and temperate climate through the units. So the lowermost and the uppermost units are indicating cold climates, whereas the ones in the middle are representing the temperate climate. So we have a mix of these different species, which have been divided into these different ecological groups. And we looked at the number of individuals from each group to understand their distribution across the levels. So we see that there is no drastic faunal turnover despite the cooling. The local Mediterranean microclimate buffered the glacial impacts, maintaining forest and grasslands. And the refuge role played by red deer, aurochs, roe deer, and elephant presence can be attested here. So Lazaret is definitely an important site which indicates, which helps us to reconstruct many of these aspects, right, from seasonality to hominin strategies to paleo environment. And yeah, that's all. I think I've covered all the points. I'm sorry for overshooting the time.
Thank you so much, Sharada, for your presentation.